Hello, my name is Heath Johnson. I am a consultant with NCSI. I'm going to show you how to add style to Service Manager. Or in other words, we're going to swap out some logos, add some color, and maybe look at some wallpaper background images. So I'm going to log into Service Manager and open up the configuration console. And on this left panel, I want to look for user interface styles, expand that, and then select the style editor. So once this is open, on the left side here we have our panel where we actually change the settings. So have some colors here, we'll have some areas to change the logo, and then I think that's about it pretty much. And then, we can also select the theme. So there's different themes that are available, and I can review those in a minute. So I click on the application tab, and I have the application, and this allows you to actually interface or interact with the interface. So as you make changes, you can see what's being impacted. So I can click on the self-service tab, and then there is also a login page available, which is where I will start my configurations. Okay, so first thing I want to do is let's swap out the logo. So where I go to do this, I'll look for the logo section, and then I can click on Upload File. I want to browse to where I have my logos at. So in here, I have this logo that's already been created by my marketing department. And I can see the logo. It looks pretty good. Maybe I want a little bit smaller, so I'll just decrease the size. I can do that by the scale. A little bit smaller, and if I don't like it, or if I want to go back to the original setting, I can click on this revert icon, and that'll take the individual setting back to where it was originally. Or if I have a whole bunch of settings, then what I could do is click revert all, and that'll revert all my settings that I have changed. Okay, so before I move on, I'm going to save this real quick. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to change the color of these bars right here. So I'm going to scroll down and click on, there's a section called bars, and I have this border color. And I already know my company color, which is shaded green. And you notice now that the bars are changed color, and I'm just going to repeat that on the login button and the Ivanti Service Manager title. Okay. And then the text color, look at the title. Text color will do the same thing. Okay, so far I like it. I like the layout. It's simple. The next thing I want to do is I don't like this section here, so I want to hide these. So where this is at is called the copyright, under the copyright section. And what you can do to do that is you click on pick the color, and then just change the transparency all the way to 0. And then do the same thing with the links. Okay, so those are still there. They're transparent against the background. They're still there. If I highlight over them, I'll see them, but in all intents and purposes, they are hidden. So I like these changes. Now, one thing I want to do is, last thing on this login page is not click on forgot password, but change that to green as well. That's going to be this links. Okay, I like everything. I'm going to save it. Now, what I like to do is open up a different browser, log in. That way I can stay in this browser as the administrator role, and then I can open up another browser and I can quickly refresh it to see how my changes look. So simple, but I accomplished what I wanted to. So one question that gets asked quite often is, on the logo, when we apply the logo, is what's the ideal or recommended size of the logo? A lot of this information is available in the help files or the documentation for Service Manager. So let's go to help.ivanti.com. When that page loads, look for Service Manager, expand that option out, and then click on Configuring Service Manager. What I'm going to do is search for style, because I know that's what I'm looking for. And you'll see a section here called Styling the Service Manager Console. On the left side, if you scroll further down, you'll see three different sections. One is for the Manager Console or Service Manager Console. The next one is for the Self-Service Mobile Portal, and then styling the login page. In those three sections, you'll find a lot of information on the dimensions of the images and the logos, and you just have to read through all this. And anyways, to facilitate my demonstration, I compiled everything into a document so that I can refer to that pretty quickly. So as far as the logo goes, the maximum dimensions are going to be the 650 by 650 pixels, and then the file size itself has to be less than or equal to 256 KB. And then also, if you want, within the application, you can scale it, the size of it, the logo, if needed. Okay, now if I come in and on the icon, and I pick something too big, let's just go pick some stuff here. Let's just pick some wallpaper. Yeah, so if you exceed the sizes, both the file size and the pixel size, you'll get a warning message or a message that lets you know what's going on there, what's wrong. Looking back at the document, we can see that here's some information on the background wallpaper. So it's available on all layouts. The image is anchored in the upper left corner. So regardless of the bar, those bars that I showed you, or the top bar or left bar in the other layouts, the image is going to be anchored in the upper left corner, and any resizing of the bars is going to overlap or overlay on top of the background wallpaper. So something to keep in mind when you're trying to find the right size of your background. And then the image itself is repeated to fill the background or cropped to fit the background. And in this case, the image file size must be less than or equal to 2 megabytes. So in the documentation, these are the dimensions that it gives for the image size based on a couple of popular monitor sizes. And in my testing, at least in my monitor, I've used both a 1920, 1080, and 1680 by 1050 size monitor screens as I was doing this, and the image size that I noticed that seemed to be ideal was 1680 by 908 or 1920 by 970, depending on your monitor size. But that's something you'll want to check out in your own environment, see what's going to work best. Back in the configuration console, I want to show you some of the differences in the layouts. The first layout is the one that is default. This is the one I've been working out of. And of course, you'll notice that there is a top bar and a bottom bar, and these can actually be adjusted. So I can set the height of the bar, and then I can also set the height of the width of the border, and then change the border color as we did previously. Then I can also change the background if I want to. Now, in this option, I can't set a wallpaper, but I can set the color of the background. And this is the same option I have in the other ones. So if we look at cloud, This one gives me a left bar. I can adjust the width of the left bar, but I can also add an image to it, and I'll demonstrate this in a little bit. And then I can or I can just change the background. Now, if I do a file here on the left bar, and I can also apply a wallpaper on the main part of the screen. The next one is fancy. This one doesn't have any bars out of it. It just centralizes the logo and the login fields. And then the last one is the enterprise layout. This one gives me a top bar. I can adjust the height of this top bar, and then you'll also notice that the login fields and the logos are split on opposite corners of the screen. And then also on this one, I can adjust the background color. I can adjust the height. I can also add a file or an image to the top bar, which again I'll demonstrate some of these in a little bit. Before I do that, I want to go back to the document and review some of the options for the images. So looking at the left bar, which is available only in the cloud layout, the image is anchored at the upper left corner, and then it is cropped to fit the bar or enlarged to fill the bar. And I can set the width of the left bar, but not the height. And so these options are what's in the documentation and the help files. What I did find in the documentation, just in my own observations, the images don't seem to have a file size limit. So I tried a file that was several megabits or megabytes in size, and it loaded, but it did there was a little bit of a delay before the image would load. The left bar, when you add the image, it will overlay on top of the overall background image, because both images, the wallpaper and then the image for the bars, will anchor in the upper left corner. And then these are the heights and widths that seem to work best in the different monitor sizes. Now, scrolling down to the top bar, the enterprise layout, a lot of the similar information. The image is anchored in the upper left corner. It's repeated to fill the bar or cropped to fit the bar. I can set the height, but not its width. And then on the different monitor sizes, you can have up to 1680 or 1920 pixels wide, obviously, because that's the width of the monitor. What I didn't see in the documentation, again, images didn't have a file size limit, but larger images will take longer to load. Top bar will overlay on top of the background image because both images are anchored in the upper left corner. The maximum height is 400 pixels. Let's start applying some images to our configuration settings. I'm going to go back to the cloud layout. I'm going to save it and then preview it in my other browser. Okay, so I have this left bar. I'm going to add an image to the background, and then I'll also add an image to the left bar. So adding an image to the background, I scroll to the top, click on Upload File, and then I select the file that I want. I've already prepared some wallpapers to demonstrate with. I'm going to select this one. Let's save it, and then again preview it in the other browser. So I think that looks okay. And I may want to adjust the coloring or the size of my title or the logo. But what I want to do first is let's hide this left bar that is there, because I just don't want it there for now. I have a couple of options. The first option is if I look for the left bar setting, I can click on the background, and again I can change the transparency all the way to 0. And what that does is that hides the left bar. And then I can preview it in my other browser. It does take up, even though the image is still here, the wallpaper, it doesn't move the logo and the login fields. It keeps them in the same place if I just set the transparency to 0. The other option I have is if I want to keep the transparency, reset that back to 100, I can actually set the width to 0. That'll actually remove that left bar, that space, altogether, and then move my logo and the login fields over to the left. Okay, I'm going to put now this setting on the width actually seems to be a percentage of the screen rather than actual pixel size. So I'm going to save it. We'll look at it again. I set it to 50, and as you can see, it is in almost equal parts, 50-50 of the screen. Whereas in the other layout on the top bar, it's actual pixel size if you get into that layout. Okay, I'm going to make this back to the original size. I'm going to actually upload a file. So I have 2 images. I have some buildings here I can add in there. Let's do that again. It didn't seem to take. There you go. Again, we'll preview. And it's just kind of busy. So you can actually add images to both the overall background and the bars, either top bar or left bar. Now what I want to do is remove both images and change it, the background. So I'm going to take this one out, and I'm going to take this other one out. Save it. And I'm going to upload a different file. So I want to show this one. So you notice that, not that one. I want to put this one in the left bar. So you notice it's cropped. So I want to change the size of this. That's going to push my login screen and logo all the way to the right. Save it, and then I want to preview it. So that looks pretty good. So you have a lot of different options on positioning of, that actually cut off some of my logo lettering, so I'm going to resize it and then refresh this one. So you have a lot of different options on wallpaper, background images, positioning of the logo and the login fields, the different toolbars. You can make different sizes. You can adjust the size. You can also hide them all together if you don't want the bars, but you definitely want to reposition the logo and the login fields to somewhere different. So hopefully this is helpful on the login screen. I know I spent a lot of time on it, but there are a lot of different options within each of the different layouts depending on your desired outcome. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and let's start talking about the application and then move on to the self-service. So in the application, I want to change some of the coloring here. I want to change the logo, the Ivanti logo, to my own company's logo. And within the application, I want to change, because our primary color is green, and so I want to change some of these lettering that has blue, and then also some of these bars up here and then down here to match our company's colors. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. But before I do that, I'm going to jump back over to the Word document I have, and let's look at some of the information here. So again, there's a link on the help file. So all this information I have here is listed in the documents or the help file. So logos are scaled to fit a 50 pixel vertical space in the header. The preferred logo dimensions are 50 by 200 pixels high. The maximum logo dimensions are 650 by 650 pixels. And the image size must be less than or equal to 256 kilobytes. And then it looks like you can only add JPEG or PNG format. Let's go down to the header and footer section. I see the logo, Ivanti logo here. I want to change that. And then I'm going to go to my logo folder. And the one I have is one that was also prepared by my marketing department, which gives me a kind of a gray and white lettering on this black background. And I'm going to change the border color, and I want to change everything. Also in the header and footer section, I have the background color, and then I have the background center color, this is the only one I want to change. And I'll just put in my hex colors here. So it gives me a little bit of a contrast, highlights the white lettering, which looks kind of nice. One thing that's kind of hard is I have the sections and the different parameters here, and some are pretty self-explanatory. Others aren't quite self-explanatory or indicative of really what it changes. So there's a couple ways that should be helpful to figure that out. So if I'm not sure, I take something that I want to say, okay, what's this background? What does this do? I'll come in and change it to like red, so it's obviously sticks out. And then that tells me, okay, if I change this background under the panel section, these are the sections that it affects. The other area, which I can hopefully get some insight on those settings, is go to the help file, and scrolling down, it gives me a description of the sections and parameters, which might be helpful in determining what's the right setting that you are looking for. Okay, I've already identified some of the sections that I want to adjust, so I'm just going to make those changes, and then we'll refresh our other browser to take a look. So the first I'm going to change is this links. And that changed the color of the text on these links on the toolbar. And then I'm going to go down to my buttons, this section. I'm going to change the text. And that changed the color of this bar down below. And then I'm going to change the color, the highlighted color. And that changed the highlighted color of the Save button, or any other buttons that might have highlighted. And then the next one we'll do is Active, under the Workspace tabs. This one will change the color of this bar underneath on the bottom of the tab. Okay. And I think that's it for what I want to do in the application. I'm going to save all this, go back to my other browser, and let's take a look at it. I can see that my logo's changed. I got my border, the background of the banner that I want. Let's open up an incident. And I've got my bar is colored. My buttons and links are all colored green up in this section. And I have my details. This bar is also colored. So this is all I wanted to change for my environment. I like it, and certainly you can go back into the configuration console and make a lot more changes and experiment and see what you like and what will work out best for your environment. Let's move on to the self-service page. And this is going to look at the self-service mobile interface. The sections that I want to change are the image on the background, and then I want to change this navigation bar to green, and then in the upper left corner change the Ivanti logo to my company's logo, and then also change the lettering on this IT support portal. Let's review my document before we move on. So this information is also in the help file. The logo is scaled to fit a 27 pixel vertical space in the header. The preferred dimensions are 27 by 200 pixels. The maximum dimensions are 650 by 650 pixels. And the image size, the file size, must be less than or equal to 256 KB. Moving down to the background images, we actually have, in the latest layout that's available, we have two images that we can apply. One is the image at the top section of the self-service mobile page, and then there is also a footer image in the lower section that can be applied. Also in the background images, they must be less than or equal to 2 megabytes. Here's a default path, mostly for my own information. What's not in the documentation, or that I can see, is the urgent announcement banner overlays on top of the image. So when you're trying to figure out the pixels or the sizing of the image, that yellow urgent announcement banner at the top is laying on top of the actual image itself. And then these are down below are the, at least in my lab and my testing, seem to be the best image sizes for the image at the top and the image footer at the bottom. And then there's some other helpful links that I came across with customizing responsive user interface and configuring the self-service mobile portal. I'm not going to go into these during this video, but there's some extra sections on doing more within the self-service mobile portal. Let's switch back to the configuration console, and I'll actually start making some of the changes. Let's change the logo. We'll start with that. So I'm going to go down and search for the header section and the logo, and we're going to upload over there. And then I want to change this wallpaper, or the image in the upper half. So as I mentioned before, we have two images we can upload, the default image and then, or just the regular image, and then the footer image. I'm only going to do the upload, or the image at the top. Go back to my background, my self-service mobile, and then we're going to look for this one. I believe this is the right one. So it looks kind of off, but I wouldn't count on this view to be sure that that's what it's going to look like. Let's save it, go back to the other browser, and switch to my self-service mobile role, and let's see what it looks like. Okay. Yeah, so this isn't the right logo. I'm going to switch it, or the background, I'm going to switch it. And then refresh my other browser to take a look. And that looks much better. So like I said before, this yellow urgent banner overlays on top of the image. So just take that into consideration when you're trying to measure or identify the correct sizing of your image pixels. So I'm going to keep this, looks good. Next thing I want to do is change the coloring of the navigation pane. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, change the background from black to company's colors. And then I don't like the highlights or this default, the active or the mouse over options. So I'm going to change these colors. So the mouse over, I'm just going to change to a lighter green. So that sticks out a little bit further, and then change the active. Just going to change that one to black. Okay. Save it. Let's take a look at the other browser again, just to do a quick view, make sure it's what I'm looking for. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with the colors, the way things are coming out, and the layout and positioning of things. One last thing I want to do is change this IT support portal to NCSI or just support portal. Where I do that is not in this section in the configuration console. It's actually done in the self-service mobile interface, but I need to switch over to the administrator role. And then click on the gears here that will put me in the configuration. And then go to branding. So I could, in the header here under branding, I could hide the title and I can hide the logo if I don't want either one of those to show. I want to keep those, so I'm going to check those back. But I do want to change it to from IT support portal to NCSI support portal. Then save it. And then get out of the administrative interface and then go back to self-service mobile. And so I was able to change it up here, the text. There are a lot more areas that can be configured as far as branding and styling goes, but I just wanted to cover the configurations that are more typical or more common. I certainly appreciate you taking time to watch this video, and hopefully it was beneficial. And have a great day.